This is Kanji in Danzanru Jiu-Jitsu. I'm your host, George Arrington. In this particular episode, part 4, we're going to be looking at techniques 16 through 20. These techniques come from the Mokuroku, or catalog scroll, of Professor Okazaki, and this scroll was given to his students when they reached the rank of second-degree black belt. By the way, scroll is not, the term for scroll is not mokuroku, the term for scroll is makimono. Now, in this series of videos, we're going to be looking at the Shime te, and this is a picture of that particular section of the scroll. In particular, on this episode, we're going to be looking at these 5 techniques. And we're going to place special emphasis on this technique and this technique. So the first technique we'll look at is called Kote Jime, and there's the image from the scroll. The printed characters look like this, and they mean Ko means small, Te means hand, and Jime means constriction. So small hand constriction, what does that mean? Well, the term kote is often referred to as the wrist, as in kotegeshi that we see in Aikido. However, other applications of this term mean the forearm, and specifically in Danzanru, we do this lock as a bent arm lock, where we take hold of the forearm itself. By the way, this kote is also used in the martial art of kendo, and in fact in kendo, one of the valid scoring strikes is to strike the opponent on the forearm with your shinai, or bamboo sword. And in fact, they wear specific gloves or gauntlets to protect this area, and they look like this. So that's those are the kendo kote, and that's what they call them. They call them the kotes. Next, let's look at technique number 17. Here is the image from the scroll, and here are the printed characters of those kanji. So the first kanji is te, which we've seen on other occasions, meaning hand. The last character, by the way, is jime or shime, which means constriction. And the question is, what does that middle thing say? If we use the Japanese word processor software, we can get some information about how one would read this character. On the left part, we see the actual image of the character. In the center area, we see some technical information about the character. We see that it's a common character. We see some of the computer codes for that character. We see that there are 2 strokes necessary to make this character. The bushu, which is the radical for this character, is bushu number 18. So if you're looking that up in a dictionary, you look up the 18th radical, and you'll see that in all of the combinations of characters that uses. It's a grade 2 character, so it's a relatively simple character in the Japanese grading of kanji. Then there's some information about where you could find it in some of the more popular dictionaries, like the Nelson Dictionary, which is a very popular dictionary, or the Halpern Dictionary is also very popular. And then later on down, you see where it says pinyin. That's the Chinese pronunciation, the Mandarin pronunciation of this character, and they would say Dao, which means blade. In fact, the Chinese broadsword is called the Da Dao, and that's that character, and so it's pronounced that way. And then other information can be found in this section. And then on the right side, we see some more information about like the meanings. So here the meanings of this particular kanji can mean sword or saber or even knife. We could lump those together and say that this means blade. The Chinese-derived pronunciation, the onyomi for this character is to with a long O sound, and that, as we saw in the pinyin, is similar to dao or do or to. So that's the Chinese-derived pronunciation. The native Japanese pronunciation is called the kunyomi, and most characters have an onyomi and a kunyomi. We see the well-known katana, which in the Western tongues you'd say katana, but properly said as katana, and also sori. So these are the katana and sori are the Japanese, native Japanese pronunciations of this kanji. And then there's some others, the nanori, which we see here. This is ki. This is chi. And by the way, chi, if you know the term tachi, that means the large sword, tachi. Here we see to without the long O, and also waki. So the question is, how do you say this term? Well, if you show this to a native Japanese person, they would say, it should be gatana. And you could say katana or gatana, depending on the character preceding it. And so if you show this to a Japanese person, they will say that this series of characters would be read Tegatana Shime or Tegatana Jime. We can get further evidence of this by looking at again, the Japanese word processor, and we type in those two characters, and we see that indeed the Tegatana is the pronunciation that is preferred for this pair of characters. And by the way, the meaning, as you see there, says a hand used like a sword in striking. So you have that. But it also means in the second example there, which says Tegatana wo kiru, which means to make the hand movement, the ceremonial hand movement when you're receiving the monetary award in a sumo match. You'll notice that they make that chop or cutting motion with their hands before receiving their prize money. But you say, wait a minute, isn't this technique called tenada jime? I mean, that's what I've always heard this technique called, as tenada jime. Ever since I was a green belt, that was what it was called. It was called tenada jime. It's an armbar from a countered choke. So what's all this tegatana business? In fact, if you look at the pictures of the boards in Professor Okazaki's dojo, it actually says tenada jime. So what's the deal with this? Well, the question about how these boards were produced is perhaps part of the mystery, which I will admit is still a mystery. I don't know exactly how it went from the way it is written to the words tenada. One possible reason is that these boards were written by non-Japanese people. And so it could be that there was some mistranslation there. I don't know the answer to that. If you happen to know the answer, I would welcome an email or some communication on that. But indeed, the boards in the dojo say tenada jime. But again, as I mentioned before, if you show this to a Japanese person, they will say, no, it's really a tegatana jime. They may be a little more politically correct with that, but they know for certain that this is called Tegatana Jime. And in fact, if you go to several of the popular dictionaries or word processing software, the dictionaries will show this as Tegatana. Now, if you type in Te Nada Jime into one of the search engines on the internet, you'll notice that there are no references to Te Nada in other martial arts. It's all of the ones that you'll see are Danzanru references. So this is like a circular reasoning that all of the references are Danzanru. But then, as always, there seems to be a counterexample, and that's this term. This is the name of a weapon used in Japanese martial arts. It's a long pole with a curved blade on the end of it for mowing down people from while riding on horseback. And this is called the naginata. So this is one possible reason that this is called Te Nada. But as for me, the jury's still out on that, because I have not yet found a reference of nata or nada in any of the dictionaries. But again, I welcome any further information on that. So the choice is yours on what you want to use here. Even though there's a lot of evidence to the contrary, it should not be called Te Nada Jime. It's a free country. Technique number 18 is Do Jime. And there's the image from the scroll. The printed characters look like this. There's Do and Jime. Do, which with a long O sound, is the torso or the trunk. Sometimes it's called the waist, although this is more the trunk area. Waist is usually koshi, so this is the upper part of the abdomen where the lower ribs might be. So the torso or trunk is the do. And by the way, if you notice on this character, you see the meat radical or moon radical on the left. And then what I always look at as kind of a memory device is that looks like somebody's belly button around their waist. And you have that little bar above the belly button. So that's where you apply your leg scissor technique. That's what this is. This is a leg scissor constriction. And again, Jime meaning constriction. Now, as a Danzanru practitioner, we do this technique in our kata. However, if you transfer over to judo and you try to apply this, you'll find that you'll get a penalty in a match, because this technique is prohibited in judo. Somebody told me one time that jujitsu is that which is not allowed. So you can take that for what you want, but don't do this technique in Kodokan judo matches. Okay, the next technique, number 19, is Ashigarami Jime, or sometimes Ashikarami Jime. Again, the G and the K depends on how it sounds to the ear. So Ashigarami Jime, and there's the image from the scroll. There are the characters, the printed characters. Ashi we've seen before means foot or leg. In the case of Ashikarami or Ashigarami Jime, it'll be the leg that we're talking about. And then a karami or garami means to tie up or to bind something. Karami is the noun version of that word. The infinitive verb would be karamu or garamu. which means to tie something up or to bind something up. And again, Jime means constriction. Now, this particular character that we see here in this scroll is an older character, and it's a less commonly used character. So that is you may not find that easily in your dictionary or your word processing software, but that's the one that's used in this particular technique on the scroll on this particular technique. There are two other kanji that are also pronounced karami or garami, which means something similar. Now, when you first learn ashikarami chime, your teacher may tell you that it's a leg entangling strangle or a leg coiling strangle. The term for coil or entangle is this character. Again, it's also garami or karami, and this is the one which means to entwine or to coil. This is a common character, and it is it's in common use, and so this actually means to entwine or to coil. So some people may confuse that with the one that's in the Mokoroku. And then there's an uncommon character, this one, which is also karami, which means to seal or to shut. And it could be that this particular, this last character you see there, could be the character from which the previous one was simplified to. So in the late 1940s, a lot of the characters were simplified, and actually that's continuing to go on today, is that characters are simplified to have fewer strokes. And so that's what that might be. So all of these are meaning to coil or to tie up or to shut. But the one that's used in the Mokoroku is the one that you see above. Oh, by the way, it's also prohibited in judo. So don't use this technique in a judo match. And the last technique is Ashigetana Jime. There's the image. There are the characters. Ashi meaning foot. Gatana meaning blade. And Jime meaning constriction. And again, as we saw in technique number 17, most people in Danzanryu know this as Ashinara Jime. Well, for the same reasons that I mentioned before, this one should rightly be called Ashigetana Jime. By the way, one thing about this in karate, if you say Ashigetana, that can actually mean the blade of the foot that's used in a yokogeri or a side kick. So that might be confusing. Whereas we call this Ashigetana, and it's a leg barring technique where we wrap the arm around the opponent's leg and press on the gastrocnemius muscle. In karate, you say Ashigetana, they may think you're talking about the blade of the foot. Much of the information in this series of videos is taken from my book, Mokoroku and Kaiden Sho, the official documents of Danzanryu Jiu-Jitsu. What I do in the book is to take the image from the actual document and then break it up into the following sections. I have the printed version, so you can actually read the printed characters, which are easier to read. How to pronounce the characters in Japanese, so if you wanted to actually say the characters in Japanese. And then have the definition or the English meaning of those. So this is available on Amazon, and I hope you'll pick up a copy. Well, I thank you for watching. I hope that this maybe spurred some thinking. And if you have information that you'd like to contribute, please send it on to me, and I'll include it in future videos. Thanks for watching.